Hello and welcome to the webinar on ensuring life harmony, resolving conflict, and creating positive change. Hi, my name is Wendy Spurgeon. I am the creator of the Way of Truth Sacred Journey Portal and your facilitator for this evening's Full Moon webinar. I'm very excited to be speaking to you tonight. And supporting us with slides and dramatic role play is Shelley Chase, writer and life happiness coach. So in our training tonight, we're going to explore several key points that you can take to minimize conflict in your life and transform it into harmony and collaboration. This training is broken into two components. Part one, what is conflict? Defining conflict, how you define conflict and what key elements are at play in all conflict. The seeds of conflict, how the potential for disagreement, if not handled properly, can lead to conflict. What contributes to conflict development, how your personal behavior can fuel the conflicts you find yourself in.
Wendy.
Yeah?
There's something wrong with the sound. It sounds like your microphone is being muffled or...
Am I too far away?
Yeah,
is this a little bit better?
Yeah, you sound better now.
Okay, I'm just going to stay this close then. Thank you. Thank you for that note. And then we'll move into part two, how to deal with conflict. Limiting beliefs, how these beliefs can perpetuate conflict in your life. The way we manage conflict. What is your preferred method for dealing with conflict? And step into conflict, a practical tool for creating a better outcome in conflict situations. So module one starts with defining the term conflict. Conflict, this is a powerful word that implies confrontation and struggle where someone will win and someone else will lose. And because of this, we view conflict situations as threatening and the possibility of conflict as something to avoid. Sometimes we decide to just walk away from it altogether because of the stress it creates. We also know what conflict is, yet how do we define it? How can we recognize it when it shows up? And where does it come from? So now is a great time to take out worksheet number one, defining conflict. Read through the definitions of conflict on the worksheet and highlight key words or phrases that most resonate with you. And from these words and phrases highlighted, write your own definition of conflict. So I'm going to set a timer and give you about a minute to work on this exercise from worksheet number one.
Hey, Wendy, I don't think it's the distance from the speaker because your voice is messing up again. It's very garbled a lot of the time.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Now, right there, you sound great.
Okay. So I'm going to stay here. This is the sweet spot here.
Do you want me to interrupt you if it keeps happening?
Absolutely. Yes, please do. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, it's been about a minute. So from worksheet number one.
It's happening again.
Okay, thank you. From worksheet number one. Oh, someone has put in something in the chat. It's from Carly. How can I get on? Well, Carly, you're not muted, not on our end. So we should be able to hear you. So from the worksheet number one, a disagreement through which those involved perceive a threat to their needs, interests, and concerns, to come into collision or disagreement with another, to be contradictory, at variance, or in opposition with another person or organization, to fight, contend, or do battle, to struggle, especially a prolonged struggle, strife, to have controversy, quarrels, or conflicts between parties, a discord of action, feeling, or effect, antagonism or opposition, as of interests or principles, a conflict of ideas, a striking together, collision, incompatibility, or interference, as of one idea, desire, event, or activity within another. So after reading these definitions of conflicts, what words or phrases resonate with you most? And just go ahead and unmute yourself and pop on in.
This is Holly. Can you hear me, Wendy?
Yep, I can hear you. Great.
So I would just say this right now. It's really hard to hear what you're saying. If Shelley, if I'm hearing it as the same way that you are, we'd almost be better to stop right now and fix what's going on, because I don't see how you're going to be able to do anything with this after we get done.
I agree, and it looks like you're muted, Wendy.
Or she's just completely gone. She's off the screen. Maybe it's just her connection.
Okay. I don't know how I got muted. I unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Let's call in. And I'll put the number in the screen. So hold on, let me pull it up. And we'll all just call in, and hopefully that'll be a better audio connection. Okay, let's see here.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, Wendy, because right now you sound great, and I don't think it's the distance. It sounds like if you were wearing a microphone on your lapel and it keeps jiggling around.
Well, yeah, I'm not. I'm just actually physically right up against my laptop. I'm not wearing any kind of headset or anything. But just to be on the side, let me find this phone number.
Wendy, do you have the ability to be able to rewind it and hear it yourself so you can make a judgment call as to what you want to do?
Well, I don't, because we're recording live now.
Okay.
So if you can hear me clearly, I'd like to just go ahead and keep going. But if you're not, then I think it might be better for us to call in. So what do you all think?
Right now you're okay, but then it's like as soon as you start going to work, the only reason I could understand what you were saying is because I had the paper in front of me and I could read along with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Otherwise, I would not have known what you were doing. And if I was new, I would totally have turned the thing off.
Well, yeah, and I think we did just lose Carly too. And we have someone from New Mexico number. Let me click her in, allow to talk.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, I had to come in by phone. They told me I didn't know the computer doesn't have a speaker.
Oh.
So I could hear you, but I couldn't say. So I'm here now, and I heard the first part. Go ahead.
Oh,
and I can hear you all right, but you were garbled a while ago.
Oh, wow. I'm going to just put the phone number in the chat for anyone who wants to call in, if that's better audio, and I may do so too, but it's just taking a moment for me to pull it up because I'm pulling it up on my phone. So give me just a moment. I'll put that in the chat, and then if anyone would like to drop off and call back in, we'll do that. Give me just a moment here. It's interesting. Shelley and I had a rehearsal earlier, and the audio wasn't an issue then.
Yeah, wouldn't you not?
One of those things. Okay.
And it's not right now. Now you're just great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you try reading that page again and let's see what happens.
Okay, yeah, I'll just go back and I'll read this worksheet again, and you all let me know if there's
Okay.
So in worksheet number 1, so what we're doing is we're reading through the definitions of conflict on the worksheet, and we want to highlight key words or phrases that resonate with you most. And then from the words and phrases highlighted, you write your own definition of conflict. So here's some definitions of conflict. a disagreement through which those involved perceive a threat to their needs, interests, or concerns, to come into collision or disagreement with another, to be contradictory, at variance, or in opposition with a person or organization, to fight, contend, or do battle, to struggle, especially a prolonged struggle, strife, to have controversy, quarrels, or conflicts between parties, a discord of action, feeling, or effect, antagonism or opposition, as of interests or principles, a conflict of ideas. A striking together, collision, incompatibility or interference, as of one idea, desire, event, or activity with another. And then at the bottom of the worksheet, it says, my definition of conflict. So just take a minute with those definitions and start to come up with your own definition of conflict. All right. Okay, so what I did to stop that echoing, Carly, I think you might be logged in twice, once through your computer and once through your phone. So if you want to just close out through your computer, then I don't think we're going to get that feedback. But I wanted to move on to the debrief questions. So when reading the definition of conflict, what words or phrases resonated with you most? What is your definition of conflict that you put at the bottom of the worksheet? And go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to pop in with some of those questions.
Okay, this is Holly. So I put anytime I'm not agreeing with those around me. And as I thought about it for a minute, I realized that the more volatile I consider the other person to be, the bigger I perceive the conflict to be. Like if I perceive that they're not going to be reasonable to try to work anything out. So if I think somebody is really unreasonable, I might really think that's a strong conflict. And if it was somebody that it's pretty easy to work things out, I might not even use the word conflict. And so what I'm saying, it really depends upon how I view the other person.
So, yeah, wow. That is a huge insight. It all kind of comes down to how you perceive that other person and how reasonable or unreasonable they're likely to be. So that's interesting. It kind of ties into some primal judgments that we make. Wow, that's really insightful. Does anyone else have something that they'd like to share about that? When reading the definition of conflict, what words or phrases resonated with you most? And what is your definition of conflict?
So this is Shelley, and I really don't have conflict in my life, barely ever. And I think that the reason for that is because my number one concern always is how I want to feel inside. So
Right.
if I can see that I have loved ones that we just don't see eye to eye on certain topics, and when those topics come up, I allow them to say their side, I say my side, and then I just change the topic. I
Right.
just move on. And I find that I really don't have conflict with anybody in my life. I mean, if I were having to speak with a certain so-called president or something, that might change. But but the people in my life, because I hate feeling mad or angry or upset. And so I do whatever I can to make sure that I don't feel that way.
So yes, you work around it. You have a high priority to avoid conflict, and therefore you do. That's a priority for you. Really powerful insight. Thank you, Shelley. Interactions on a personal, business, government, and religious scale from our own home to all corners of the world involve conflict. Therefore, it is more important than ever to have skills to effectively manage conflicts with others. So let's look further at what is at the heart of conflict. And we'll move into module 2, the seeds of conflict. So how does conflict seem to spring up out of nowhere, often with no warning? How does it escalate so quickly? What makes it so prevalent? Now's a great time to take out worksheet number 2, the seeds of conflict. Think of a recent situation that you had with someone that could have turned into conflict, but you were able to amicably resolve it. Briefly describe the situation on your worksheet and then answer the questions that follow. So let me give you just a minute to work on that first part of the worksheet. Ready, set, go. Great, thank you. And next, think of a situation in which you were not able to reach an agreement. Briefly describe the situation and answer the questions that follow. Let's take another minute for that one. All right, thank you. Whenever choices or options exist, there is the potential for disagreement. Such disagreements, if handled properly, can result in richer, more effective interactions with others. When disagreements are poorly dealt with, the outcome can result in conflict. Conflict creates tension between people through feelings such as dislike, bitterness, resentment, competition, alienation, and disregard. We all have beliefs, opinions, and attitudes that can clash with others, but if handled correctly, our disagreements can actually inspire useful debate and progression. And now moving into Module 3, what contributes to conflict? Have you ever been involved in unwanted or unanticipated conflict, a situation that abruptly blew out of proportion and you weren't even sure how it happened? To what degree does our own behavior, what we say and do, cause or escalate conflict with others? And what can we do to prevent or at least minimize this from happening? Let's take a look at what often contributes to conflict. Bob and Cheryl are having a tiff at work. Observe what happens between them and then answer the questions that follow. So Shelley and I are going to do a little bit of a role play, and I'm going to play Bob and she's going to play Cheryl. So just listen in. Here we go. Okay, Cheryl. So why aren't those estimates ready for the budget report yet? I told you yesterday that I needed them by 2 o'clock. Thanks to you, I'll have to be here half the night getting this ready.
This place doesn't revolve around you, you know. I had customers to tend to. Without them, you wouldn't even have a budget to worry about.
Well, that may be, but you could have at least had the decency to let me know you were going to be late.
And if you were ever available, I would have told you what was happening.
Thank you, Shelley. All right, so what's the likely outcome if this exchange continued? Any thoughts? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'd say you'd have to go in front of Judge Judy.
Yeah. It seems like neither one of them is open to seeing things from another perspective. And what do you feel is contributing the most to the conflict in this situation?
Accusations. There's a lot of things being accused of, and people are defensive, and people aren't listening to one another, and they're not asking questions. They're not interested in, I mean, it's just right off the bat, it's an accusation.
Yeah.
So good.
Right off the bat, it's an attack. There's no curiosity. There's no trying to understand or trying to be understood. It's just, you know, you must be wrong, right? You are the problem. You're making my life harder. Yeah, it's a lot of accusation. So how do normally intelligent and articulate people so easily fall into such unproductive communication patterns? Again, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think it's fear. I think, you know, when conflict arises, if we're not aware, we can really easily fall back into that lizard brain of fight or flight or freeze. And we go into the most fearful place. We start to think of you know, how we're going to get in trouble, and you know, what is the quickest way to save ourselves. And it comes from that place of unawareness and that kind of knee-jerk reaction of fear. Anybody else have thoughts about that? That might be a little broad. Anybody else have some thoughts about that?
I agree with the fear, but I also think, I was just talking about this today at work, and that is that sometimes people don't take into account how they're coming across. So they don't realize, well, what if somebody was talking to me that way?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're talking to you like as if you were a kindergartner or whatever. And it's quite infuriating and insulting. And when that happens, people automatically go on the offense.
Right.
You know?
They go, yeah, they get defensive, they close up, they put up their shields. So what can we do when we realize that our emotions are dictating our interaction with someone else?
I guess I would say to, when you feel that adrenaline rising, when you feel yourself about to start attacking, that you would step back, take some breaths, ask yourself who you want to be in the situation, and don't move forward until you have gotten a hold of your emotions.
Right. That's great. Shelley raised her hand. So, no, Carly raised her hand. So I'm trying to unmute you, Carly, so you can talk. Okay, there you go. What did you want to say, Carly?
You unmuted her computer, but not her phone, and she can't talk to you with her computer.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I need to unmute her phone. There we go. There we go. I can hear you now, Carly. Thank you.
Yeah, I have. Okay, now I'm gonna turn off the computer again.
Okay.
I am. Yeah. I'm trying to.
There we go.
Okay, can you hear me still?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Okay, I couldn't hear when I turned off the. Okay, so now I'm on. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just calling on you. You raised your hand. So
Well, I was calling on you to say that I couldn't hear. I mean, that you couldn't hear me. I've been on the phone ever since I turned off the computer, and I was muted.
Okay. Well, now we can.
So now I'm with you. And I think what creates most conflict is that we come from different suppositions about the situation, about life, about everything. You know, without trying to understand the other person, we just assume that they're thinking like we are, and they're being stupid because they won't agree with us. We try to explain it again and again, but don't you see this? Don't you see this? You know, like any normal, rational person would agree with me.
Right. Yeah. We think everybody should think the way that we do, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
In conflict, everyone has their side of the story. And the story includes the same types of characters we find in fictional stories, whether in books, television, theater, or the movies. In conflict situations, there are 3 types of characters. 1, the controlling villain. 2, the helpless victim. And 3, the righteous hero. When we feel attacked by someone, we usually take on the role of the victim, innocent of the accusations laid against us. We then shift to playing either the hero and stand up to our attacker, or if not careful in managing our emotions, especially the darker ones, we can slip into the role of the villain and attack the other person. Playing any of these roles limits our ability to understand the real problem at the heart of the conflict. It also traps us into an ongoing drama of confrontation that has little to do with reality. However, once we become aware of these roles and how easily we take them on, we can then choose a more positive approach that does not include playing a part. When we choose not to play the part of the victim, hero, or villain and become objectively curious, we can appreciate what the other person feels. Curiosity leads to asking questions, listening for responses, hearing what's really going on, and appreciating why the other person feels the way they do. Further, when the other person feels heard instead of attacked, they become more willing to hear our side of the story. And certainly conflict can be harmful in many ways, but when we bring true curiosity, respect, and compassion to our interactions with others, we build bridges, deepen relationships, and productively solve disagreements. We move beyond the drama of confrontation and bring about real conflict resolution. And now moving into Module 4, limiting beliefs that create conflict. In addition to personal behaviors that may contribute to conflict, there are some important limiting beliefs that we can hold that perpetuate conflict as well. And these limiting beliefs are simple, yet often forgotten, and are powerful molders of our reality. Let's explore what these limiting beliefs are. Now's a good time to take out worksheet number 3, limiting beliefs that create conflict. There are 4 limiting beliefs that can create and perpetuate conflict. Being aware of these beliefs can help eliminate the escalation of conflict and lead to a better outcome. So I want to encourage you to fill these in on your worksheet and record any key points that you want to remember. The 4 limiting beliefs are: 1, that we need to explain our side. After all, we reason. If they understand our perspective, they will come to the same conclusions we did. If this happens, then everything will be fine and the conflict will go away. 2, that we are good listeners. The truth is that most of us are ineffective listeners. Listening is much more than being quiet until we get our turn to talk. Listening involves a real effort to understand another person's point of view. 3, that we are unafraid. The truth is that many people live their lives from a place of fear. Fear that they will not get their way, fear of losing something they cherish, fear that they will be made to look foolish or lose face, fear that they may be wrong. And 4, that there must be a winner and a loser. We tend to think that differences can only be solved competitively, with someone winning and someone losing. Problems can be solved collaboratively. There's a way to ensure that everyone wins. So let's move on to some debrief questions. Out of those 4 beliefs, which one of those limiting beliefs mentioned stood out most, and why? What do you think?
I think number 4, that there must be a winner and a loser. That's not what we're trying to communicate. We're not trying to, it's not a competition. We're trying to share ideas. We're not trying to overtake one another.
And I think I was saying number 1, exactly. If I only explain my side clearly, of course they'll see I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Which limiting belief do you think would be the hardest to change, and why?
I'm kind of stuck. I'm just saying, since that's my modus operandi.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the hardest to change. That's what I use mostly. Yeah.
I was looking at number 2, that we are good listeners. Like, if I believe that I'm a good listener, but I'm still in conflict, I'm not a good listener. And so that would be the hardest one for me to shake, or change, because I'm being righteous, right? I'm in that place of, I am a good listener. They're just wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say number 2 also. And the reason I was going to say that, Wendy, is because I think it was last month that we had a whole webinar.
I know.
On the skill of listening. There's a lot more to it than we are generally aware of.
I know. We have a lot to learn and practice around listening.
Yeah.
So the belief that we're good listeners, that might not be serving us so well. At least not me. It's not serving me so well. I need to improve my listening skills. Holly, did you have anything you wanted to pop in with?
No, I had said number 1 is what I'd have trouble. Oh, you said Harley. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Carly. That we need to explain our side of something first. We need to really make sure that they understand. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one to let go of. What do you think, Holly?
Well, I just, one of my girlfriends has always said, we just hate being misunderstood. And so that's the thing. It's like being, even if you do explain yourself to somebody, and then it's like that feeling of being misunderstood is, that'll be something that'll really, if I can't let go of that, because that's the way it is, people perceive things the way that they do. And if they can't hear you, they can't hear you. And that's just the way it is. And if I can't accept that, boy, we're in a world of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and it always comes down to, we can't change anything about the other person. Anything at all. We cannot change anything that they think, say, or do. But we can change the things that we believe, the things that we think, the things that we say and we do. And that's where the power is. And so much of the time we're trying to get somebody outside of ourselves to change their way of thinking or being, so that we don't have to feel uncomfortable. And we have no control over that at all. The control, the power is in ourselves, and what the change that we're able to create within ourselves. So holding on to any of these limiting beliefs can create a perceptual filter through which you view others and can negatively impact how you respond to them during conflict situations. Additionally, it can skew the reality of the conflict situations you're faced with. So therefore, it is important to be aware of these limiting beliefs. Notice which you may have a tendency to adopt, and try to remain open-minded when a potential conflict arises. And now moving into Module 5, the way we manage conflict. So thus far, you have created your definition of conflict. You've explored the seeds of conflict by looking at recent situations you've encountered. You've discovered the 3 types of characters in conflicts and learned 4 limiting beliefs that could negatively be impacting your relationships. In this section, you will identify your preferred style of managing conflict and learn about the benefits and implications of that style. But before we move into that section, I want to tell you about an exciting holiday gift I'm offering to all the members of the Way of Truth coaching community to support you in creating your best year ever in 2020. Merry Christmas! The 2020 Best Year Ever audio course, a $177 value, yours free. Are you ready to experience more of your greatness? Can you imagine a dream, a plan, a life you love? Spend the next 4 months creating a vision for your life that will inspire, excite, and propel you to become the person that you've always wanted to be. The 18-module Best Year Ever audio course provides a remarkable support structure for helping you to reconnect to your deepest dreams, remember your commitment to excellence, and live in integrity with what is most important to you, while continuously being held in your highest. Therefore, it is important, your highest vision. So your Best Year Ever audio course will be delivered to your email inbox weekly starting January 1st, 2020. And if you couple this course with your free annual 60-minute soul purpose discovery call, by the way, you get this whether you claim this gift. This is part of your free membership. This is just what you get. So, but you know, if you couple this audio course with your free annual 60-minute soul purpose discovery call and your free monthly 15-minute laser coaching call that you just get, this is part of your free membership, and your free monthly group coaching calls, like, you know, this full moon webinar is one of them. And then there's a new moon sister circle. That's the other. And they're just free. They're just always available to you. And when you combine all of these things, that equals your specialized free program to ensure your best year ever. And this is my Christmas gift to you. So I'm just going to say, be sure to claim it here by New Year's Eve. So all you got to do is go to thewayofTruth.live/bestyearaudio and claim your free gift. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thank you. And now back to our training. So what is your method for handling conflict? When someone is disagreeing with you, what is your gut reaction? Do you feel a sense of thrill at the prospect of a good debate? Do you want to pretend it isn't happening? Or do you try to find agreement when there are opposing positions? The more you are aware of your natural, instinctive style for managing conflict, the better you can manage future situations for a positive outcome. So now is a wonderful time to take out worksheet number 4, the way we manage conflict. Complete the assessment to determine your preferred style for dealing with conflict. rating each statement on a scale of 1 to 4 of how likely you are to use this strategy. The scale is as follows. 1 is rarely, 2, sometimes, 3, often, 4, always. Answer the questions based on how you actually respond rather than how you think you should respond. So in the conflict management style assessment, when dealing with conflict, 1, explore issues with others so as to find solutions that meet everyone's needs. Is it 1 rarely, 2 sometimes, 3 often, 4 always? Two, try to negotiate a give and take approach for problem situations. Is it 1 rarely, 2 sometimes, 3 often, 4 always? And I'm just going to go ahead and set the timer. I'm not going to read all of this for you. You don't need me to. I'm just going to set a timer and we can all just fill out the worksheet on our own time here. And now to find your preferred style, score your assessment as follows. Add together points for questions 1 and 5. This will indicate how likely you are to collaborate when dealing with a conflict. Add together points for questions 4 and 6. This will indicate how likely you are to compete when dealing with a conflict. Add together points for questions 7 and 10. This will indicate how likely you are to avoid conflict. Add together points for questions 3 and 9. This will indicate how likely you are to accommodate when dealing with conflict. Add together points for questions 2 and 8. This will indicate how likely you are to compromise when dealing with conflict. All right, and let's come back for some debrief questions. So what is your preferred conflict resolution style? And what surprised you about your results? I'm going to share. The highest number I have here is an 8, and it indicates how likely I am to avoid conflict. That's a good insight for me. I mean, it's a really good insight, and it's it kind of makes sense because I grew up in an abusive household, in a kind of a addicted, codependent household, and so you learn strategies when you're growing up about how to avoid conflict. One of the things I did was to never come home, to just be so busy and have so many things going on outside of the house that it kept me away from the house. It was an avoidance technique. So, I mean, like, I see that and I'm like, wow, I've done a lot of work, but that's still my preferred conflict style is avoidance. So I'm not making it wrong. I'm not making it wrong, but it's a good insight for me to see it. Who else wanted to share about what came up for them, and if anything surprised you about your results?
This is Shelley. I expected to be like you, with avoiding conflict being my preferred method. And I was surprised to find out that my preferred method is to collaborate.
Oh.
And that made me feel pretty happy.
Awesome.
Yeah. My preferred, this is Carly, was to compromise.
Compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Holly, and my answer isn't going to be swift, just because this is what I have been working on the last 6 months in depth. So nothing about what I'm going to say is surprising at all. I have practicing addicts in my family, and they are crazy. And so the way I avoid conflict with crazy people in front of me is I accommodate them, and I've been doing it for years. So I'm with Wendy. It's like I was also raised around alcoholism, and I absolutely accommodate other people's wishes. I lie my ass off about what I want doesn't even come into play. I am merely trying to calm the other person down, because if I get somebody really irrational that's willing to escalate a conflict, like, they're just not ever going to stop. I just give them what they want. So I am avoiding. So you could put that as a top thing. And the way that I avoid is by accommodating other people. Now, when I'm around, if I was talking to you guys, I would totally be, when I'm around people that I consider to not be dangerous and that I'm not scared of, I told them I totally collaborate with everything, because that's what I really strive to do. So when I'm dealing with people that they are coming from their competitors, and it's a win-lose situation, and they are going to try to win at all costs, I just I'll just give them what they want, and hopefully get them down the road and away from me. But I'm learning the things that I'm learning right now, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we go through the rest of this. That I've actually been looking at the modules for conflict resolution, where if people step out of the roles of collaboration is not, collaboration is win-win. It's not usually it's kind of a compromise in there. So it's not 100% win-win for both people, but it evens things up. But competitors it's win-lose. Accommodators, it's win-lose, because when I'm accommodating, I lose what it is. If I even were to stop and think about what I want, I lose. That's the thing about it. So I feel like, man, I just aced that test.
You know, there's no wrong, but it's a good thing to kind of bring into the light of our awareness, right? So now let's take out worksheet number 5, conflict management styles. And we'll take some notes on our worksheets of the 5 conflict management styles. So here are the 5 key styles for dealing with or managing conflict. And they are, number 1, competing. The competing style is the style in which one's own needs are promoted over the needs of others. This style uses an aggressive approach to communication, has low regard for future relationships, and exercises a coercive sense of power. Those using a competitive style tend to seek control over a discussion in both substance and ground rules. They fear that loss of such control will result in solutions that do not meet their needs. Now, the pros to this competing style are that they're goal-oriented and quick. And the cons are that it likely breeds hostility. So that style is good for someone who prefers short-term gratification over long-term satisfaction. And the second style is accommodating. The accommodating style is the opposite of competing. Someone using this style allows the other person to satisfy his or her own needs while neglecting their own, all for the sake of being diplomatic. And the pros to this style are preserved relationships, and the cons are personal needs not addressed. I might guess that someone who is in the flow of the accommodating style might have some underlying resentments that pop up unexpectedly. The third style is avoiding. The avoiding style is a common response to the negative perception of conflict. Perhaps if I don't bring it up, it will blow over, we say to ourselves. But generally, all that happens is that feelings get pent up, views go unexpressed, and the conflict festers until it becomes too big to ignore. Like a cancer that may have been cured if treated early, ill feelings grow. Because needs and concerns go unexpressed, people are often confused, wondering what went wrong in the relationship. The pros to this style are: it does not escalate conflict and postpones difficulty. The cons are unaddressed and unresolved problems. So just like accommodating might breed resentment, avoiding, it seems very likely that it will breed resentment, because that which we resist persists, right? That which we don't acknowledge has control over us. So by not dealing with it, it gives it more power. Number 4, compromising. The compromising style is an approach to conflict in which people give and take in a series of trade-offs. While this is a common approach, the middle ground is not completely satisfying. The parties remain focused on their needs. They don't fully understand the other side, and all parties usually feel that they have come up short. So the pros to the compromising style, they can be useful for complex issues. Without simple solutions. All parties have equal power. That's a con. Equal power. Oh, I mean a pro, that's a pro. Equal power. And the cons, no one is ever really satisfied. Less than optimal solutions get implemented. And then the 5th style is the collaborating style. The collaborating style is the pooling of individual needs and goals toward a common goal. It involves cooperating with the other party to understand their concerns and expressing your own concerns in an effort to find a mutually and completely satisfactory solution. Collaboration offers the chance for consensus and the integration of needs. It brings new time, energy, and ideas to resolve the dispute meaningfully. So the pros to this style are it creates mutual trust, and maintains positive relationships. Also builds commitment.
There what?
It also builds commitment.
Okay.
And the cons are, it is time and energy consuming approach. Yeah, it does take time and energy. It's a time and energy consuming approach. We each have our own way of dealing with conflict. The techniques you use are based on many conditions, such as your temperament, personality, environment, who you are dealing with, and the specific situation. None of these styles is right or wrong. How effective they are depends on how they are used and the context they are used in. And now module 6, step into conflict. So thus far, you have learned numerous tools and tips for resolving conflict with others. Now the learning continues as you discover a practical tool for resolving conflict in everyday life. Have you ever sensed that someone you are talking to is not on the same wavelength as you? That no matter how hard you try, they can't or don't want to get on the same page? While this feels very frustrating and unproductive, you can get beyond it. With understanding, empathy, and collaboration, people with differing perspectives can find common ground. So let's take out worksheet number 6, step into conflict, and take some notes on your worksheet of how to step into conflict. Effective conflict resolution is about approaching a potential disagreement with a genuine desire for resolution rather than anger or avoidance. Confronting an issue can make you feel vulnerable. You may expose yourself to rejection. You may be forced to admit that you have contributed to the problem, or it could challenge your willingness to change. The good news is that there is a simple and effective tool to turn disagreements into positive outcomes. It's called step into conflict. So the S stands for seek to understand. To understand another person, we must be willing to truly hear and empathize with their position. We must be willing to put our own perceptions and judgments aside and focus intently on their thoughts and feelings. Asking to be understood is a way of saying, open up your mind to me. And wanting to understand the other person is a way of saying, I'll be open, I will open my mind for you. And the T stands for then be understood. Once we understand, then we can seek to be understood. If we show true care and concern for the other person's position, it's more likely that they will try to understand us. When both parties fully understand, then they can work together to discover possible outcomes. The E stands for empathize with others. Ask questions and express interest in the other person by listening to their side of the situation without judgment. When we put ourselves in another person's shoes, they become less defensive and more open to collaboration because they feel they have been seen and heard. And the P stands for problem solve. Find ways to solve problems by considering the needs of everyone involved. Brainstorm potential solutions to resolve the conflict in a way that satisfies all parties. Don't get hooked into just 3 possibilities, your way, the other person's way, or a bland compromise. Remain flexible and open-minded, and stay engaged and committed to the process until a solution is reached. And now let's move into module 7 where we lock it in. So far you have accomplished a lot in this training by creating your own definition of conflict, exploring the seeds of conflict by looking at recent situations you've encountered, discovering the types of characters in conflicts, learning 4 limiting beliefs that could negatively be impacting your relationships, identifying your preferred style of managing conflict, and learning the 5 conflict management styles, and discovering a 4-step approach to resolving conflict. For your final activity in this training, please take a minute to review your worksheets and answer these questions. What nugget of information are you taking away from this training that will make a difference in how you communicate with others? How will you apply it moving forward? How has your perception toward conflict changed? In what ways do you feel more equipped to handle conflict in the future? So I'm just going to give us a minute to journal around those questions. And I'll repeat them again. What nugget of information are you taking away from this training that will make a difference in how you communicate with others? How will you apply it going forward? How has your perception toward conflict changed? In what ways do you feel more equipped to handle conflict in the future? All right, and I just want to open it up for anything that you'd like to share, any of these gems. It doesn't have to be all of them. I'll open. So the nugget of information I'm taking away from this training. I'm an avoider. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that I was still an avoider. So the gem is I might want to work on a collaborative style. And the way I can implement that or apply that going forward is by studying the collaborative style and look for situations to apply it. And I see that conflict arises from fear. So when I minimize my own fear, I immediately take that out of the situation, right? When I can be present to my own feelings, my own fear, I know techniques. I can take deep breaths. I can calm my body down and really listen and try to be more present. That takes my own fear out of the conflict, which makes it easier for the other person to take their own fear out of it. And then the last thing I answered, so I'll feel, and in what ways do I feel more equipped to handle conflict in the future? I feel more equipped through knowledge, through the opportunity to go through this training. I feel like I have some tools available to me, especially the step into conflict. That is something that I can study, and it's a nice, easy acronym that I can apply in situations if I can remember the step, the STEP. Anyone else like to pop in with their gems, with what they're taking away from this training?
I think the thing that I learned the most is that I make a lot of assumptions, that I think I know things, and then when I stop to do these exercises that are really like insightful into myself, I find different answers that are contradicting what I thought I knew. So it really makes me feel like, wow, you are not as self-aware as you think you are, and you should pay more attention.
And what a gift too. I mean, because what that means is that you're opening to learning more, right? You know, we're never really done with it. There's always new levels of insight and information that we can take in when we're ready for it. So that's exciting. Thank you, Shelley. Who else would like to share?
Well, I was always convinced till now that compromise is the best way to go. But I can see the value of collaboration so that nobody feels like they have given up too much. It's just that in order to apply that, I'm going to have to take more time, because I like to see a problem, in a group and have everybody have a chance to say something and then get to an answer right away. And that's not going to work for collaboration. You're going to have to give people more time,
right,
to express themselves before they feel like they're through, and then they can buy into whatever the solution is.
right.
And for my perception change, I'm not a good listener, because I am trying to push this along and I'm not necessarily insisting on my solution, but let's just get something decided and get on to the next topic on the agenda kind of thing. And that's not going to make for great feelings, and in volunteer situations especially, it's important to maintain a sense of camaraderie and, supporting each other. So that'll be helpful.
Thank you, Carly. And Holly, what about you? Any new insights?
So I was just going to share a little bit with you.
Right.
I've been doing so much work. I think this is all the thing with working with a life coach. And when you're not able to get to your goals, and when you're not living the life you want to be living, I'm just saying, for me, I'm tracing it right back. This is the starting point of this, the way that I'm interacting with other people and how I end up sabotaging my own self. And some of this is pretty deep rooted with me, but I was going to give an example of what happened with me today. Was I went to a Nia dance class, and it was there was probably 5 women there, 5, 6 women. We were all dancing together. Just beautiful dancing. And afterwards, one woman was sitting on the floor, and I went up to her and I said, you just look so beautiful like right now where you're sitting. Would you like me to take your picture? And she said no, and she stood up and she grabbed my arms, both my arms, and she said, but I had wanted to ask you a question. She said, were you, and as a footnote, my husband and I have been talking to realtors over in Hawaii and looking to see if maybe we could get a place over here. And it turned out that one of the buildings we had looked at was where she lives. And so she asked me if I had been at her condominium, and I said that I had, and I told her what unit we had been looking at. And I did not know that she was a broker. And oh my God, she just started in on me about like a salesperson does, like a used salesman. And this is my problem, that I am having to deal with this, because now understand, she actually has her hands on me too. well, I got my body loose from her, but anything I said, she just, that was not true, this was this. And I almost, even telling you right now, it's like I almost can't breathe. And I just do not know what to do in those situations. So I consider them, they're kind of like, I call them steamrollers, because they'll just roll right over me. And I have no idea what was going on with her. But after the fact, so the tool that I'm trying to develop within myself is that when I get a steamroller that's coming at me, I need to step out of the way, number one. I really would like to step out of the way before they're actually rolling over me. But I could have diffused it by asking her one simple question, which was, how do you like living here? That one question.
Well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
If I had asked her how she likes living in the building.
Oh, okay.
Would have taken it out of the context. But my lizard brain gets going, and I just, I mean, I am like a deer caught in the headlights, and this is really specifically what I am working on and practicing. They're like little experiments that I go around, because there are people all, there's no place you can go in the world that is going to not have conflict with it. People are in all different places, exactly where they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. But just because somebody is competitive and getting aggressive with me doesn't mean that I need to avoid them. I don't need to accommodate them. There's other things in between that, which is just the starting to ask them a question about something. And this is this part where we were talking about the pros and cons of each thing. When you're dealing with, sometimes the most prudent thing is to avoid. If you're with somebody, because collaboration takes the willingness of two reasonable people to be able to do that. And if you, and then the other thing that I want to say along this lines too, because of just where we are in the world, like we're working on this in this little room with the 4 women, right? And we are having such a problem in the world, listening to one another. We are encouraged to compete. We are rewarded for competing. It's like you're either a winner or a loser, you know, all this sort of stuff that, it really has to start with me getting clear with where I am and what it is that I want. And so I'm giving this plug to Wendy to say how this is the whole point of doing life coaching, is if I'm in a spot in my life where I am not living a big enough life, I don't like where I'm at, there are tools for me, in which I've been doing this for a little while now, to figure out how it is that I am interfering with me going forward. And it just blows my mind how much of it comes down to this your conflict style. You know, it is just absolutely amazing, because if you're avoiding all the time, you're never going to get anywhere. If you're accommodating all the time, you're never going to get everywhere. And I don't want to be a competitor that is out there going me at the expense of other people. I don't want to do that either. So it's like, you know, figuring out how to do it. So I will continue to be working on it. And then the last thing that I wanted to say was, because I am so much an accommodator, I avoid by accommodating other people, that it keeps getting suggested to me that really one of the number one emotions that accommodators feel is guilt. That is the thing that really, if you go and read more about this, you'll see how the different styles actually have emotions assigned to them. And and if you go through it further, then there's actually questions you can ask yourself, because these conflict styles, if we're doing them, they go way, 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 way back to when we were little kids trying to get along in a family. And it's pretty predictable. If you're the firstborn, I don't know. I won't even say any more about that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Those are really powerful.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you for the plug, Holly. I so appreciate it. So everyone, thank you for your participation tonight. This concludes the webinar on ensuring life harmony. I hope you found it valuable to further develop your skills to productively resolve conflict with others. As Dorothy Thompson said, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of creative alternatives for responding to it. Remember, don't be afraid of opposition. Remember, a kite rises against, not with the wind. It's a quote by Hamilton, maybe. And I just want to end with a reminder that Merry Christmas! I have a gift for you. If you want it, all you have to do is go to that link and put in your name and your email and phone number, and you will start receiving your 2020 Best Year Ever audio course for free. It'll start dripping to your email each week. And if you couple that with all of the other benefits from your free membership, you've got an incredible program to get you going in a really good way in 2020. So please feel free to take advantage of that as my thank you for being a member this year, for opening the emails, for using what works for you, for showing up for these workshops, for connecting with me, for one-on-one phone calls and all the things that we do. I'm so grateful and blessed for my relationships with every single one of you. And if you know someone who could really use a solid support system to get them going in the new year, go ahead and send the link to them as well. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. Have a happy December. Blessed holidays for you all. We are complete. Mwah! Have a great night.
Thanks, Wendy.
Bye, Wendy.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.